so sweet, reaching out. Each night I try, a cold caress, I hear her cry. This haunted heart, I hear you call. Something echoes through these holes. I feel your touch, but there's no fall.
Non-stop rock talk with Tyson Bryden. Welcome to Nonstop Rock Talk. I am your host, Tyson Bryden. On today's show, I am very happy to welcome back from bands such as Cold Sweat and The Fifth, Roy Cathey. How are you?
Tyson, what's going on, buddy? Look at you outside, looking all like in nature and everything. You look good, buddy.
We're up in Toronto, so we have to take advantage of this every opportunity we get.
and I'm here in the south, so we're sweltering and it's humid, and in about another hour there'll be a thunderstorm. So that's just the way it is around here.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure it's probably way hotter there than it is here. I mean, today was really nice and it's sunny and it's warm, but it's probably about 10 degrees hotter there.
It is always hotter in the south, always hot and humid and moist. And you just kind of get used to it. But some people just never can. But, it is what it is.
It's all good. So, what we came here for, you have a new album with your band, The Fifth.
Yes, sir.
Released back in May, entitled We Are One on RFK Records, which is Ron Keel's label, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that Ron is keeping great new original music going, which is amazing, and putting out great stuff. I have to admit, this album is amazing, and I'm going to tell you that right off the bat.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
I mean, and for my listeners who haven't picked this up yet or streamed it or whatever, if you love straight ahead hard rock, this is the album to buy. Right from the opening track, Dust.
Yes. The Dust is just kind of like a straight kick in the face, right from the get go. We kind of like let our intentions be known from the very first track,
which is amazing. And you know what? It kind of reminded me of Four on the Floor, like that, right in your face.
Thank you very much. This is kind of like my tip of the hat to my Cold Sweat past. This is our version of Four on the Floor. So good ear on you. But very excited and very proud of this record. It's there's a lot of pressure with this one because this is our first release for RFK Media, which, as you said, is Ron Keel's new label, and we were the first band signed to the label. So we knew that we had to come out strong right out of the gates, and I think we accomplished our goal.
Yeah, which is, I when I was getting ready for the interview, I honestly had not heard the album yet, so I put it on, and I have not stopped listening to it.
Well, I'm very proud of these songs because the bar was set very high for us. Being the first band signed to the label, my past relationship with Ron. The belief that Ron and Aaron Fisher, his partner at RFK Media, has instilled in me. I knew that we really had to deliver. And, I'm very proud of these songs, and they gave us the levity and the time to complete them, and we were never felt like we were rushed. So the creative process just kind of flowed very organically, and the result is 12 really strong songs. We want to give the fans their money's worth. And in an era of, a lot of records will have like 2, maybe 3 good tracks on it, or people are just worried about releasing singles. We wanted to go old school and release, 12 great songs that when the people put their money down, that they're going to get their money's worth.
Yeah, and definitely with this one, right to the very last song, which is Starlight, I believe.
Yes, and Starlight's a single and a video that we released about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, when we were still actually in the process of writing the rest of the record. And, Starlight is a brilliant video, a very high budget. And I encourage everyone to go to YouTube and check that out, But the latest video, Haunted Heart, which is the latest single, is also, one of those visually appealing videos. Both of them are from the era of the 80s.
Yeah.
That, when MTV ruled the airways and bands really depended on that big video to catapult them to stardom. We kind of are keeping that flavor alive. So the last two videos that we've done, very proud of, but also very proud of Shake Little Sister. I mean, the Fifth has put out some really good quality videos. Shake Little Sister is actually the reason that we got to perform on the Kiss Cruise in 2022, because we entered a contest, which it was basically, hey, does your band want to play the Kiss Cruise, and submit your video, and the fans voted on it, and the Kiss Navy voted us onto that ship through the strength of the Shake Little Sister video. So proud of the videos that we've put out, and I'm very proud of the new record.
It's amazing. You had just mentioned Haunted Heart. It's a very prolific song in my eyes from what I listened to. And you know what? It the vibe of that song reminds me of kind of like, you remember In a Darkened Room from Skid Row on Slave to the Grind?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
You know how that music, it's got like this eerie feeling to it. And I mean, the title fits perfectly with that lyric, with that title.
Right. Well, that song's very special because, when I first, got the music and started working on the music with the rest of the guys, I didn't want to write lyrically the atypical ballad. It's the slow song on the record. It's the ballad on the record. So I decided lyrically to take a different direction with it. So the entire time, what I envisioned was imagining if a man moved into a house, an old house, that was haunted, and it was haunted by a female ghost, and the female ghost falls in love with him, and he falls in love with the female ghost. And I kind of took that angle when I started writing the lyrics, instead of the atypical, ooh, baby, I love you,
Yeah.
kind of vibe. So I the music did have a very haunting overtone to it. So lyrically, I just tried to match that vibe. And when I turned this thing over, and Ron decided to release it as a single and a video, we had no idea that they were going to release this as a single, let alone the video. So I just kind of like turned it over to the powers that be, and they produced just this visually beautiful video that matches the song perfectly. So
it's exciting.
Very exciting, but I could also see why people could be somewhat apprehensive about AI. But if you use these tools properly, it's just that, it's a tool. But basically, they took photographs of the last photo shoot that I did, and photographs of my girlfriend off of her Facebook page. So that is
cool.
my girl in the video. And they produced this beautiful video, and it was just, how do I put it? Haunting to watch it for the first time. To watch it for the first time, and to literally see visually what you kind of imagined, in your mind whenever you were writing the lyrics and stuff. So once again, I urge your viewers to go find it on YouTube and check it out, Haunted Heart.
Yeah, and it's a great, the song itself is amazing too, so you get to watch an amazing video with a great song. So
thank you very much. And that's the cool thing about this, is because I think the song stands on its own without the need for the video, but the video enhances the song. So, we're not writing songs to do videos. That era is long gone. But we are, I try and write lyrics that tell stories. Because the era that I grew up in, I'm a child of the 70s, and I was in the 80s bands and stuff like that. But I'll never forget, my sisters, the AM rock songs that were played in the house all the time. And when you're listening to songs like by America. You know, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. You know, you're hearing these lyrics that are painting a visual picture, and that's always kind of stuck with me. I've always tried to write lyrics that people can feel like they're going into, you know, when they close their eyes, they could see it.
Yeah.
You know, they could see what the lyrics are describing. And I think that's, you know, one of the things that make me stand out as a lyricist and as a songwriter, is I try and write like mini movies with my lyrics.
That's awesome. And I mean, we did grow up in the video age, but I mean, when you bought an album, usually you listen to the whole album. So
yes,
most of the songs you were visualizing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Because there wasn't a video for every song.
No, there wasn't, you know, and it's like, you know, a lot of bands back in the day, they really did. They tried to write a full record of great songs, you know, at least the artists that I grew up admiring. But somehow we got kind of away from that, and we became more single oriented, and people were just, you know, the labels were just looking for that. You know, they needed that big radio hit that had to follow it up with the big ballad hit, you know, and then your third song, it was pretty much whatever, you know. So a lot's changed. So I really try and write from a visual aspect, so the listener can kind of feel like they're you know, sucked into a story. You know, I think the music stands on its own, but it's my job as the singer and as the lyricist and the guy that writes the melodies. I've got to pull them into the story. I've got to pull them in to see what I see when I'm writing these things in my head.
Yeah. You mentioned that AI thing, the AI thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was looking up my podcast today because I was trying to share it with another artist that asked me to share it with them. So I go on and I punch in my podcast, and this whole spiel came up. And I'm like, where did this, like, who wrote this? What is this? What the hell is this? And it was AI generated.
Yes. I've come across a couple of things like that, you know, on Facebook and, you know, Google and stuff like that. And it's eerie to see these things put these descriptive things out there that are pretty damn close to what you're going for, you know, and some of it's very flattering, you know. I mean, it's like I read some of the stuff about me and I'm like, wow, I must be pretty good. This computer likes me a lot.
It's so true, but it was so odd too. At the same time, I was like, who the hell did this?
Yeah, who is this computer? He's a great agent for me. Let's get him to book me some shows.
He really likes me.
Yeah, they like me. They really like me.
So I wanted to ask you about a couple of the other songs on the album.
Sure.
Pay For You. I love that one as well.
Thank you.
And of course, vocally, you killed it. And as I think I've told you this before, like, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, you are one of my favorite singers. So
thank you, sir.
When I know you're putting out new music, I know I'm going to be excited about it because vocally, I love what you do, and I always have.
Thank you.
What can you, I mean, there's a cool melodic part to this song, but it's also, I was listening to it on the way home from work today, and I was listening to the guitars, and I was like, there's like a heaviness to it too, but it's melodic. It's just it's very well written. Well,
you know, we really tried to craft these songs in a specific way to kind of target our audience and the listeners. A lot of the production aspects that Chris McClernand brought to the table really made good songs great, you know, and that's what a good producer can do, is he can take a good song and make it a great song. And that's what happened with Chris. And with Pay For You, you know, I felt that it was a strong commercial hard rock song in the vein of Shine Down, Nickelback kind of vibe. You know what I mean? And I'm not afraid to use the N word, man. You know, Nickelback is a great band.
I agree with
that
you,
writes
100%.
that writes great songs. And if I may go on a bit of a Mouth of the South rant tangent here, one of the things that piss me off about rock fans is we shoot ourselves in the foot, because every time a rock band starts getting mainstream success, the fans turn on them.
Yep.
They did it with Nickelback. They did it with Metallica. They've done it with Shine Down. They've done it with Disturbed. They've done it with Five Finger Death Punch. I mean, I could go on and on and on with these bands that once they get on the radio, the fans turn on them. But what do they do? What are the fans doing when they're listening to the radio? Oh, I hate this shit. Oh, I wish they'd play some rock music. Oh my God, they don't play any rock music. They did it to Creed. I'll never forget it. I was living in Atlanta, and during the 90s and everything, it was Dishwalla and Third Eye Blind and all these faceless 90s pop rock, all the same band. And then all of a sudden, you know, I heard Creed and that, I was like, oh, wow, distorted guitars, wow. And we turn on it because these guys get success, and I'll never understand it. It just boggles my mind. And, you know, I just tried to write a song that I felt kind of fell in that vein, that a modern rock radio station would go, hey, this is a good track, you know. So that's what Pay For You was always meant to be.
Yeah, no, it's a killer track. And it's funny, I mean, you mentioned Metallica in that conversation. There are still fans out there that go, I only like Metallica up to Injustice for All.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
I mean, heaven forbid that they, you know, go gold or platinum or get on the radio or start selling out, you know, arenas and stadiums. You know, heaven forbid, you know, that they obtain success, you know, because no band wants to stay in the clubs forever. No band wants to stay underground forever. They all want to have that mainstream success. They want as many people to hear their music as possible. If not, why are you doing it? You know, why are you trying to get a record deal? Why are you going through the whole hell that the music industry is if you're not trying to get mainstream success? And as soon as they get mainstream success, you know, the fans in the rock genre turn on them.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's
crazy.
Because you think like Metallica, like I thought it was great because you're hearing Metallica, you're hearing metal on the radio.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, like heavier than like Def Leppard. You know what I mean?
Heavy stuff. You know, and you know, is Metallica the be all end all? No. You know, I mean, are they my favorite band? No. But you know, when that latest one came out, and it was like just cooking with double kick drums and just ripping, I'm like, yeah, God, this is killer. And it's like you just look online and people are just shredding it. Oh, it's just blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, my God, why are you guys doing this? You're killing yourselves. But you look, probably the most successful tour right now going throughout is Metallica, you know? So somebody likes the stuff.
Exactly.
So,
and the thing, and the Nickelback thing is, to me, they were keeping it going, the live rock band with the explosives and the live stage show, where you weren't getting that anymore. So, and they kicked ass, and they've got the killer drum sound too.
Oh God, man. I was lucky enough, you know, the fifth several years ago, we got to play a show in Raleigh at the Walnut Creek Amphitheater, and we got to play the side stage, but it was like Nickelback and Breaking Benjamin and like Finger 11, you know, there was like 3 or 4 bands on the bill, and I got to see Nickelback, and I already liked them, you know, and you know, Chad's not the greatest singer in the world, and I'm the singer guy, but still I know good rock songs when I hear good rock songs. But man, they put on a hell of a live show. I mean, they were like doing parts of Metallica songs. They were doing parts of Pantera songs. They had a t-shirt gun that they were shooting t-shirts out into the crowd. There were bombs. It was a great live show. And it was like, oh yeah, I know that song. Oh yeah, I know that song too. Yeah. Oh that, yeah, I know that one. I know that one. I know that one. I know that one. I mean, it was a great show. So the people that hate them so much, if you would go to one of their live concerts, a few years ago, you would walk away like, wow, that was a great rock show. So it's like I've never understood the hate. I think a lot of it was, radio and the labels. They want you to stick to that formula. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a formula for success. Right, and they got a bit saturated, and that that kind of stuff is going to happen, but that doesn't take away from the talent that the band has, in my opinion.
Exactly. So, getting back to We Are One, blame it on rock and roll. So, the first time I heard it, there was a tone in your voice, and I don't know if you hear it in there, but it sounded like Ray Gillen.
Well, I will always take that as a compliment because Ray's one of my favorite singers. This record, I decided to really just let it all hang out. I mean, you can hear Ray Gillen in some of the songs. You can hear Ronnie James Dio in some of the songs. You can hear Rob Halford in some of the songs. You can hear elements of my influences throughout the record. And there were a lot of times, in previous Fifth records, I kind of held back. I held back. I was more in the 2000, era of commercial hard rock. I was keeping it in the lower registers. I was doing a lot more screams. I was, not really leaning on my high end as much. But this record, man, I just, I've just decided to play on my strengths, and blame it on rock and roll is just. I love that song. I love all the songs on the record, of course, but I love that one because it has a little bit of that Southern twang to it a little bit, because we are, a band from the Southeast, and, it tells that story, and it's the truth. I mean, I could have had the huge house, the fancy sports cars, I could have had all those things, but I've dedicated my life to rock and roll music. You know what I mean? I've toured all over. I've taken the lumps. I've got friends that I went to high school with. They've got the big house. They're a doctor. They're a lawyer. They're whatever. And Roy's still out there in the trenches. Singing rock and roll and touring and playing shows and putting out videos. And I guess blame it on rock and roll is just me going, yep. This is what I've done with my life. You know what I mean? All my mistakes, I can blame it on rock and roll. Blame it on rock and roll. But there's a lot of truth in that song. Because I've walked the streets called Sunset. I knew the man that lived on the Silver Mountain. That's a reference to my relationship. Yeah, that's a reference to my friendship with Ronnie James Dio. So it's an autobiography, almost. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. All those flavors are in there of those vocalists.
Right.
There was one track, I think it's track 5. You would swear it was a Dio song. The riff, the opening riff, sounds like a Dio song, which is awesome.
Right. Well, we didn't... Like I said, we didn't hold anything back on this one. We knew that we had to really deliver a strong record to Ron, and we just, we didn't go, well, that sounds too 80s. That sounds too much like this. That sounds too much like that. We played from our heart, and we just let it fly, and I think that creative freedom that we got from Ron and Aaron and the label just elevated us, because, like I said, we were the first band signed to the label. We knew we had to deliver something special. But Ron was never like, I need product. Where's the record? Are you guys done? Where are you at? What songs are you guys finished? You know what I mean? It was never that. Ron was always like, you know, Aaron, our manager and partner in RFK, he would be like, oh, well, you know, what are you guys doing? You know, and he would go, well, you know, me and Ron want you guys to, you know, write this thing. You know, we're not putting any timetables or anything on you guys, but when's it going to be finished?
That's funny. But I mean, I say that with those influences, and I hear those in there, but it still doesn't it doesn't emulate all these bands I'm talking of. I want to set the record straight on that I hear those influences, but it's its own thing, and this is the fifth, and that's what it sounds like, right? I just want to clarify. Well,
you know, I mean, we're all a product of our influences. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm not ashamed to say that I was influenced by Ronnie James Dio and Ray Gillen and Rob Halford. You know, those aren't bad singers to try and emulate and to try and craft your vocals over. But, you know, I never tried to copy anybody. I don't think that I have there's similarities, but I think I have a very unique tone. You know, I don't think that I sound exactly like somebody else. I think that my voice is mine and mine alone, but, you know, you can hear the influences in there. So yeah, that's a good thing.
And you do. And that's, I mean, on Blame It on Rock and Roll. You mentioned that Southern thing which I think because of that, the whole Badlands, mostly more the second Badlands album than the first one, because, you know, that album was a little bit bluesier. And so the combination of that, you know, that's where I go with that, because I'm like, this could be a Badlands song that they never did.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You know, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things which, you know, I take that as a great compliment. You know, I just, going back to the whole point that I was making, we tried to write from our heart. You know, we tried to write what felt right, and we didn't feel any constraints on what we can and cannot do. We just knew that we had to deliver a really strong record, and that was what we set our sights on.
Yeah, and then after that track is Armed and Ready, which is it's got a totally different feel. It's a fast song. And vocally, you sound different. You know what I mean? Which is great to hear on it. When you listen to a whole album and the vocalist is bringing these different styles, and these, you know, his voice isn't the same on every song. Where I think there are bands that every song the singer, you know, doesn't change that much. Where on this, you're really pushing the envelope to sound different on every song.
Thank you. You know, I mean, I'm not a one-trick pony. You know, I mean, I've worked very, very hard through the years to hone my craft. You know, I'm the guy that is, you know, the first one to crash out on the tour bus. I'm the guy that's walking around drinking the hot tea. You know, the Cold Sweat. We did the Monsters of Rock cruise a couple of months back. The last one that they did, I drank 2 beers the entire cruise. I walked around drinking hot tea. You know, honey and lemon. You know, I've got the portable nebulizer. I've got a humidifier in my room. I'm a singer, man. You know, I take this very seriously. I take care of my voice, and I've always tried to hone my skills. So, you know, I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I want to be somebody that has a lot of different tools in my toolbox. And I think this record is a great example of where I can go with my voice. And, you know, I appreciate you recognizing that.
Cool. Now, is it okay if we talk about Cold Sweat a little bit?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. It's part of my history.
Yeah, okay. So you guys just did the Monsters of Rock, the cruise? You just did it this month?
Yes, sir.
Is there more shows on the slate for this year or into next year?
You know, we're really hoping so. You know, our bassist, Chris McClernand, who produced the fifth record, he's been going through a couple of health issues. So once he gets a clear bill of health, we're going to start trying to get more dates. You know, it's a difficult time, and it's hard to get everybody on the same page. But we've got to let Chris get healthy, and we've got to still try and move the project forward. We released Loud and Forever, which was our first new song in 30 some years. So RFK Media is about to release that as a single. And we did the Unburied Alive release about a year ago, which was a lot of B-side, stuff that we were writing that was in the vaults that we never got a chance to release unless you picked up one of the various bootlegs that are out there floating around the internet.
I was going to ask you about that. And it's funny. I didn't listen to it till this week. And I was like, I was excited about it for it to come out. And I was like, it just kind of got lost and I hadn't listened to it. And then I put it on, and that too, I have been listening to it for the last 3 days constantly. Those four songs. And then the live stuff, of course, because the live stuff sounds amazing. And I was going to ask, like, were those songs, you said, kind of B-side, or they were just kind of, were they maybe for the next album, or when were they? That was, those were for the next record. And they were a series of demos that we did after we lost the deal with MCA. And we were writing new material, and we were going into a studio in LA somewhere, and we were recording stuff, demoing stuff, and putting stuff out to submit to the labels. So those songs were all songs that we were planning on, putting on the next record. Yeah.
And it kind of showed that we were moving in a little bit more of a heavier, still melodic, but a little bit more of a Tesla vein, and kind of move away from the polished sound that the Breakout record was. So, that's why Loud and Forever is so exciting, because it is the first new song that we have written together in almost, it's like 38 years.
That's crazy.
And it's got that edge. It's heavy, but it still has that sound that Cold Sweat is known for, but it shows that we were definitely going in a more aggressive direction.
Yeah. I mean, what I notice, the guitars do sound different. They're more natural, actually. They don't sound as much effects on them, and they sound killer. And then I love the snare sound on those tracks as well. And it's funny, the first track and then into the second track, it's cool because it seems like you're singing a little bit higher on the second track, so it gives you a little bit of a different dynamic in the vocal, which we had already talked about before. So,
right. Well, Cold Sweat is my part of my legacy, and it's the reason that I'm where I'm at right now. So, I mean, I was always, even back then, I was somebody that was known for my high end, my high voice, being able to hit those high notes. But, you can hear in the material that I was putting a lot more grit on my voice and stuff like that in certain parts, because that's kind of one of my signature things is I can hit a real clean high note, but I could still put some dirt on it, and make it sound real and put texture on my voice, which amazing. Is something I've worked hard for.
Yeah, and each song is kind of different. It's kind of like, I think part of the reason, like hearing that there's a new song coming out is amazing. Maybe I didn't want to listen to it because I'm like, this may be the only new Cold Sweat music I never hear. I'll never get to hear again. So maybe I was just putting it off. But,
right.
You know what I mean?
Give it a listen. It doesn't suck.
No, it's great. I mean, I did finally listen to it and thought, oh my God.
Right.
It's like, you remember in the back in the day, you'd put on an album and an album would be like 35 minutes and you'd be like, I got to listen to that again. It's over, but I want to hear it again. And that's what I'm finding with those 4 tracks. And then I'm going into the live stuff. But the live stuff, I'm like, well, I've heard those songs a ton of times, but these are new, so I want to hear these again.
Yeah. Well, they're new, but they're old. You know what I mean? So we were able to remix them, put a little bit of some polish on it, and kind of show everybody the direction that we were going in. And that's why Loud and Forever is kind of, it's kind of cool because the reason I dig it so much is not only is it the first song that we've been able to collaborate on after all these years, but it's still got that sound. It still sounds like Cold Sweat, but you can tell that there's a little bit of some dirt under the fingernails. So I really dig it a lot.
So I can't wait to hear that. But those tracks were done before Mark left, and you guys became Sweating Bullets then.
Correct. Those were all still songs that were written when Mark was in the band, and we were still Cold Sweat. But like I said, it was at a time that we were trying to find another deal after the MCA thing fell apart, and by that time, grunge and the industry was flipping. And what I like to say is, if you were in Metal Edge magazine smiling, you were not going to get another record deal.
It's so
and it's the truth, man. I mean, it was like so many bands, and I was talking to somebody about this not too long ago. It's like so many bands back then were still going gold and platinum and still moving units and still selling concert tickets. But the powers that be in the music industry, in their infinite wisdom, thought that, moving this new grunge movement in was like what the future of the industry needed. Well, that future lasted for about 7 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was 5 to 7 years. You only really had about four bands that significantly made an impact on the music industry. And they basically, kids want to party. They want a soundtrack to party to.
Yep.
And they took all the rock kids and they started shoving this incredibly depressing music on them. So what did the kids do? They just moved it to hip hop. They moved to gangster rap, or they moved to commercial pop country music, and they left the rock genre behind, because once again, kids want a soundtrack to party to, and that music just was not conducive to that. So it just kind of opened the door for a lot of suburban kids to just start, listening to gangster rap and stuff like that. Back in the day, if you really wanted to frighten your parents, you would, a girl would bring home a long hair guy with a leather jacket and earrings, that scared the hell out of the parents, right. And then later on, it's like they started, pushing hip hop and gangster rap, and then there was a whole new boogeyman. So it was really crazy to watch the industry change the way that it did, because I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and you would go down to the Sunset Strip and it would be packed with a bunch of pretty boys with long hair, and they had the stretch jeans with the cowboy boots and the leather jackets, and they're passing out their flyers, and everybody's trying to get a deal. And then, like, literally within a couple of months, you go down there and there's a bunch of guys wearing Doc Martens and flannel shirts, and they're looking like they hadn't showered in a couple of days. And it was like, I'm going, the hell is going on around here? You know what I mean? So it was a crazy time in the industry to watch how quickly it turned on itself.
I mean, as a fan, for me, it was, I didn't like it, because I'm like even buying albums up here was, I had to go downtown Toronto in like a section at the HMV record store to find anything. Because you're so used to walking into the record store, there's what you want, and it was so accessible and everything's on display, to this, like, okay, I'm not into this grunge thing a whole lot. It's really not my thing. I want to hear guys with great voices and shredding guitars and big drums. I still want to hear that. I want to hear, some of these guys that are, the cream of the crop musicians. That's what I want to listen to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I find hilarious is the music industry guys and the critics and everything, they sneered. They looked down their nose at the hair band era and the 80s. And a lot of them still do. You start talking about these bands from back in the day, like your Shirt Poison, perfect example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they roll their eyes and hair metal, and they they sneer and look down their nose at it. But those songs are going to last forever. Okay,
yeah.
The Every Rose Has Its Thorn, and the Cherry Pies, and the Pour Some Sugar on Me, and You Give Love a Bad Name. All of those songs are going to be forever.
Yep.
It ain't gonna be heart-shaped box, Bubba. It's just not.
So true.
It's not. No matter how much you wanted to try and force it down everybody's throat, yeah, it was hot for about 5 to 7 years, but it had no staying power because there wasn't nothing to it but angst and depression. You know.
You know, I had this conversation long ago. I found that they said a lot of the hair bands sounded the same and it got saturated, yada yada, all that stuff. But for me, some of the thing is that a lot of the grunge bands, where could they go from what they were doing? It was kind of, because musically, I don't think there was anywhere they could go from there.
No. I mean, you know, how much more angsty can you be? You know, how much more, how low can you go? You know, the songs were very depressing. And don't get me wrong, I love some Alice in Chains.
I do too.
I love some Soundgarden. Chris Cornell was just a fabulous vocalist. You know what I mean? God rest his soul. But, you know, the bigger point that I'm making is it didn't have the staying power of the radio hits.
Right.
The stuff that people would hum. They wanted to hear it on a Saturday night when they're driving in their car with their girls. You know, it just didn't have the staying power, you know. And as somebody that witnessed the industry shift on a dime, turn on a dime, you know, it was really sad to see. And a lot of great bands, you know, got thrown under the bus. And was there a glut of it? Was there a lot of them that were sounding the same? Yeah, absolutely. But whose fault is that? It was the music industry's fault. It was the label's fault. They should have been a little bit smarter about these bands instead of being so greedy. They were trying to, we got to get that hit. We got to get that hit. We got to get that hit. Got to get that million seller. Got to get that MTV. You know what I mean? It's like they didn't care about signing bands and building bands and cultivating them and nurturing them. You know what I mean? It was like, it was a one shot. You know what I mean? They threw it against the wall and seen if it stick, you know, and Cold Sweat was a victim of that. You know what I mean? But, you know, Cold Sweat had a lot more musical chops. There was a lot more going on there. And were we in Metal Edge smiling and doing the whole Pretty Boy cheese ball thing and releasing the pop metal singles? Absolutely. But we had more to it. And the people that saw us live, they saw that. And the people that bought the record and loved it from beginning to end, you know, we've got a cult following. You know, that's why we're still doing the Monsters of Rock cruises and stuff like that. And the band stands on its own because, you know, when we played the M3 festival like 2 years ago, you know, we know that Cold Sweat didn't have that massive mainstream exposure and success, but we got booked on the M3 festival, which is like the biggest, you know, festival of that genre of music. Let's be real. And, you know, leading up to it, you know, I follow the M3 Facebook pages and stuff like that. And show me, who's Cold Sweat? I've never heard of these guys. Who are they? Right. Who are these guys? Never heard of them. After we played, they were like, oh, now I get it.
Did sales go up over the reissue?
Yeah, sales went up. You know, we made a ton of new fans.
That's awesome.
And people were just like blown away. Once again, our live show, you know, we were still at a very high level. You know what I mean? And you know, it's good to be able to be on a stage with bands that have sold a gazillion more records than we have. But people were walking away talking about Cold Sweat, and there were a lot of people that said Cold Sweat pretty much stole the weekend. You know what I mean? And that's a good feeling. And I'm proud of, you know, I'm proud of the Cold Sweat legacy, and I'm proud of everything that we accomplished in that era.
Well, I wanted to go because you guys, I didn't make it, unfortunately. And we'll be back. I hope so, because I'm going to make it this time. And so I watched some of the footage of it the other day. Mm-hmm. And it's been Cold Sweat and you all week, by the way, because I've been prepping for this interview. So
prepping for the show. I get it.
Yeah, getting ready for this. So anyways, so I was watching the show, and the thing I loved was during Crying Shame at the end, you said, no backing tracks. Did you hear that? Did you hear those guys are really singing?
Right. Yeah. And that's something that we've always prided ourselves on.
So.
You know, we were the same way back in the day, me, all the guys sang, but the predominant 3-part harmonies were from me, Chris, and Anthony. And those guys sang like birds. So we were like out there even back in the day, just hitting those 3-part harmonies, and people were just blown away with it. And this, we're still the same. We take it very serious. And, backing tracks, the Fifth uses some backing tracks, but they're effects, like in between songs, we'll have like some ambient kind of noises and stuff like that. Or, at the beginning of Dust, there's the car, our drummer hits a pad on his kit, and it, has the sound of the car going and stuff. But as far as everything else, it's live, it is live. And that's, I'm old school. I believe in that.
That's awesome. And it was funny too, because before you started that song, you alluded to the fact of Crying Shame, but to the fact that was what you guys wanted as the lead-off single originally.
Yes.
So
yes.
It is funny, and I don't know if I ever told you this, but when I didn't get the album till early 2000. I found it on eBay on CD. It was signed by the whole band for $5.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's a score,
and I still have it. But it's signed to some guy named Adam.
Right.
And your signature is Rory on it, by the way, too. So.
Rory, there you go.
So
it's authentic then.
Yeah, it's authentic. So anyways, I put the album on, and Four on the Floor comes on. I was like, this is a killer song. Crying Shame comes on. I go, this had to be the single. That was my thought. I was like,
right,
this must have been the single, because this song is, this is kicking me in the nuts, more or less. Like, this is
right.
Amazing.
Well, that kind of alludes to what I was saying previously. The labels were like, oh, we got to get that commercial song, we got to do that commercial video, we got to do this, we got to do that. They chose Let's Make Love Tonight. We wanted it to be Crying Shame because we knew that there was a little bit more substance to the band. Did we have commercial elements? Did we have the Let's Make Love Tonight? Did we have the Take This Heart of Mine? Did we have Waited in Vain? Those really commercial hair band songs? Yes, we had them. But in our opinion, we wanted to come out of the gates a little bit more of a swagger, a little bit more of a Whitesnake, blues-based kind of vibe. And the label, in their infinite wisdom, they had other things in mind. So,
and I think that's probably why I gravitated towards it. Not that I didn't love those more slick songs, but to me that was like, I was like, why wasn't this song huge? To me that's what that felt like. And
right.
And it's funny, but unfortunately they didn't give you guys a chance to. It's almost like they already knew. Because if you had released Crying Shame, and then you released the ballad, and then release maybe Let's Make Love Tonight as a third single, and then see where that goes. And so it's funny because I pulled out the album. Okay, so right there. Now,
beautiful.
Look at the hype sticker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
what's at the top? Crying Shame.
All killer, no filler, features Crying Shame, Let's Make Love Tonight, Waiting in Vain. So it seems like, from a marketing standpoint, they were like, okay, we're going to go 3 singles deep on this, and these are our 3 songs that we're going to use. Right.
Well, I think that probably Crying Shame might have been the follow-up. They started with Let's Make Love Tonight, but to be completely, transparent with everything, MCA completely dropped the ball. We had several issues with the name. It started out as Ferrari, then Ferrari pushed back, and we couldn't sell it. Yes, there you go. That needs you management. So they Ferrari pushed back. We couldn't do any T-shirts, stuff like that. So of course we couldn't use that, and we went through another name, and then we couldn't use that. So we tried to use Crying Shame as the band name, and they had a logo done up with the C and the S, the crest, kind of like Whitesnake-ish.
Yeah,
right. And we come back. They did a trademark search, and come to find out there was a band called the Crying Shames, and we couldn't use it. So we wanted to keep the C and the S. So I believe it was Chris McClernand. He come up with the idea because they were very heavily Thin Lizzy influenced. He was like, hey, but what about Cold Sweat? So by that time, MCA was they were just throwing their hands up because we had Wendy Dio as a manager, and she was a ball buster. She was like busting their balls because she didn't like the way that they're planning. They didn't like the tour. So she didn't like the tour support. She was pushing, because she wanted to put us out on the road with Ronnie. So when we decided on Cold Sweat, MCA was just like, yeah, whatever, and they put it out. They didn't even do a trademark search.
Oh no.
So basically, we went out on the road. Wendy was like, look, I'm putting these boys out on the road. They're going out opening up for Ronnie. And, you guys need to get your shit together, So they never did a trademark search. And we're out on the road with Ronnie, and they get a cease and desist letter from some attorney in upstate New York. And they never told us. So the whole time we're like, hey, when are we going to shoot the video? And they kept pushing it off, stalling. And it was still in the era of video. So we're like, hey, when we're going to do the video, And like, oh, we're going to get around to it. We'll get around to it. When we started to notice we're going into major markets, our record wasn't in the stores. So we started to question, what the hell is going on with MCA? Well, Wendy's pushing them for the video. And finally, Wendy's like, well, look, we're going to pay for the video. We're going to take part of our publishing money, and we're going to use Ronnie's lighting rig. We're going to set up the day before in San Antonio at the Sunken Gardens, and we're going to shoot our own video, and you guys could just worry about reimbursing us later. So we took part of our money to pay for the video, for it to get played on MTV like 3 times and get dropped by the label, because the entire time they're feeding us like $6 to $10 grand a week in tour support to keep us out on the road. So whenever they went to court, they can go, oh, well, you can't sue us. Look, we lost money on this band. So we were
goodness,
totally hosed by MCA. I mean, they just totally hosed us. And, it sucked because how fans are. They would see us open for Ronnie. Next day, they would go to the record store. They would look for the Cold Sweat record. The Cold Sweat record wasn't there. Oh, well, the new Rat's out. I'll get the Rat.
I never seen it in the store, ever.
Well, see, that was what we were fighting against. You know what I mean? They wouldn't give us the video. They knew they had litigation going on, so they didn't put the products out in the store. You know what I mean? It's like they strategically kind of choked us out without our knowledge. And that was the obstacles that we faced. And it's very discouraging. But
that's crazy.
Not complaining, because I had an amazing time during that.
I remember the thing about the name. I remember reading about that. I do remember, I think Metal Edge or one of the magazines actually posted it after the fact, right? But whatever happened to the other Cold Sweat?
I don't know. I don't know. But, they sued us for a couple $1,000, and I think 2 of the guys, settled for like $1,000 or a couple grand a piece, and I think me and Eric and Chris McClernand refused to pay, and they kept hounding us for money, and then they finally, to settle it out, they were like, to close this out, $100, certain amount in this, and I think I sent them $100 in pennies or something.
Did they didn't have that's crazy, but they didn't have a record deal. Did they have a record deal?
No. Nope, didn't have a record deal. They were just some jazz band up in upstate New York that had a smart little lawyer. That first thing that they did, Law 101, do a trademark search. And MCA was like, they ignored them. They sent cease and desist, and they're like, we're the corporate giant. You're nothing but a little fly. And that little fly was smart enough to do a trademark search, and they saw that MCA didn't even trademark the name. So they trademarked it right from underneath us. But we own that bad boy now.
That's good. I was going to ask you that. That's good.
Yes.
I mean, was that years after the fact?
Oh God, yes. Years later. Chris McClernand, he's a smart businessman, and he kind of, contacted everybody. This is even before we got active and did the 2020 reunion he was like, contacted everyone, said, "Hey guys, this is open now for trademark. Do you want me to grab it?" And we were all like, "Yeah, grab it." So it's ours now.
That's good. That's good to hear. I mean, and you're right. That Breakout is a cult classic.
Yes.
And
yes, I'm proud of it. Very proud of it. It's still today stands the test of time.
I still listen to it all the time.
Well, I appreciate that. There's a lot of people that still do.
Yeah, which is amazing, and I'm glad that you guys are out doing it again. All 5 original guys, which is
all 5 original guys, all 5. Even though the last cruise, Chris was starting to have some health issues, so my bass player for the 5th, Jake Tripp, he stepped in and did the cruise with us and did a fabulous job. So
well, hopefully
we're all it's all part of the RFK Media family, so we keep it tight knit.
That's amazing. Well,
it's all part of the family.
That's awesome, Roy. It's been a pleasure as always. I
appreciate you, Tyson.
And I'm sorry I kept you so long, but I mean, we're having a great.
Well, I'm a talkative guy,
Well, you don't get the mouth of the South for nothing, so I guess
that's right. That's right. And just like with my music, I want the interviews to be I want the people to get their money's worth. So I want to thank you for having me on again, and thanks for all you do, brother. And I wish you nothing but the best. And anytime you need me, I'm here for you.
Well, hopefully I will get to see Cold Sweat and the 5th. I've never seen the 5th either, because remember at Rock and Skull, was it? And you.
Oh yeah, man.
You didn't play.
Good times,
right?
Yeah, and you had to fly out.
No, we had to drive. We had to go to Chicago the next day, and I missed it.
Yeah, they ended up switching our days and all that stuff. I'll never forget that. I was so pissed off. But anyway, we still developed a friendship, which is a good thing. So, okay. But we appreciate you very much, and thanks for all you do, man. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, and we'll talk again. And have a great night.
All right, Tyson.
And we'll talk soon. Cheers.
Appreciate you, Tyson. All right, cheers.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.